Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Naomi, and today I want to show you how to use props in the most effective way so that you are maximizing their support. Okay, now I'm sure that you've used props before, or maybe you're one of those people that's like, nah, I don't use props. I don't need props. I want to get one thing straight before we get started, which is that props are not a crutch. Okay, and also props are not a punishment. When I was newer to yoga, I always thought, oh, if I use a prop, then I'm not very good at this. Or if I use a prop, it's cheating. Or, if I use a prop, it means that I'm like giving up or some ridiculous nonsense like that. Here's the thing about props. Props just help you enhance the experience of doing a pose, right? So let's say you have really tight or really restricted hamstrings and you can't get your fingertips easily to the floor with your legs straight. Okay, well, props bring the floor to you so that you don't have to strain and so that you can use your muscles more effectively. Here's what I mean. Let me show you. So I'm going to grab 2 blocks to start. Now I'm also going to show you how to use a chair to maximize your Uttanasana as well, but let's place the blocks on the ground. Now, I'm placing them on the middle height, and I have 1 block for each hand, and I'm going to show you from the side and from the front so you can see why, okay? Now, if I'm in Uttanasana in this forward bend, and I want to use the blocks to help straighten my legs, to help really work my hamstrings. But when I reach for the floor, my knees bend and my low back is rounding and I'm rolling out to the outsides of my feet, then I'm actually not using my hamstrings in the most effective way. The blocks can help me get a little bit higher up so that I can bend my knees more, really root evenly through my feet, and if I push into the blocks, I can send my thighs back. So the blocks aren't a crutch here, they're a tool, right? They give me reference to help me engage my hamstrings a little bit more, to help me access my hamstrings a little bit more, and to not rely on my spine and my low back in particular in this forward bend. Right? So in my forward bend, I don't want to be all tight and restricted in my shoulders and my spine. I want to be able to bend my elbows a little bit to keep my shoulders on my back and really move from my pelvis, right? Tilting my pelvis more forward so that I can get deeper into this forward bend. Now, why am I using 2 blocks? Well, I have 2 hands, right? And I have 2 shoulder blades. If I only use 1 block, which is a little bit more conventional, right? We sort of go, oh, I only need 1 block. I can hold on to either side. Notice what happens when I hold on to 1 block, right? This block is not the width of my shoulders. It's more narrow. So if I hold on to 1 block and my low back is tight, my hamstrings are tight, there's restriction of movement, I'm going to be restricted in my head, neck, and upper back as well. So I'm not really going to be able to get into my legs in the same way. I'm going to be kind of tight there. If I use 2 blocks and I take them as wide apart as my feet, that actually allows me to bend my elbows if I need to, right? So I can widen out through my elbows, really engage my shoulders, and then create the space to fold in. So the block just helps me give reference to my shoulders as well as my hamstrings. Now, keep in mind that if that middle height is not enough, you can prop yourself up a little bit higher, right? Because ultimately in Uttanasana, in this forward bend, the first thing that you want is space. Right? You don't need to be really tight in, particularly if there's more restriction in your low back and your hamstrings. You want to be further forward, right? So the blocks just give you a lot more room. If you can't reach the floor without falling forward, the blocks give you more room. Okay, so having the blocks higher up gives you the space that you need to take your thighs back, keep your legs strong, and then fold in without feeling that restriction and tightness in your upper back. Okay, now sometimes the blocks aren't enough in that forward bend, so let's take a look at this chair. Okay, now you might be thinking, oh my God, it's ridiculous to do a forward bend with a chair. No, it's not. Who says it's ridiculous, right? Anybody who says that it's ridiculous to do a forward bend with a chair is sort of missing the point, right? Everybody has to start somewhere foundationally. And if this is your somewhere foundationally, start there with pride and then watch yourself sort of progress. So if you're using a chair, I might hold on to this chair here because this is about as far as I can go, right? If I start folding forward and there's this huge rounding through my back and I feel discomfort, pain and pressure that's going down through my legs, and I feel this is not good, then I can hold on to the chair, right, press into it, right, get that reference, right, feel my shoulders working, I can take my thighs back more, I can send my chest down more, and I might even be able to get my forearms down to the chair. Okay, and then that would sort of be the equivalent of like, oh, hey, there's a block nearby, or I could walk my hands down the chair, right, and use that grip to get a little lower. I could put my head on the chair and use that for a little bit of reference into my shoulders. Okay, so that's one way that you can think of, well, how are these props a tool instead of a crutch? Well, they're a tool because they help me figure out how to progress to that next step as I get stronger. Okay, using the chair, using the blocks in your forward bend, not a crutch, right? It's not cheating. It's actually giving you more access. Okay, now let's move on to balancing poses. Balancing poses. All right, so let's talk about Warrior 3. So I get a lot from people like, oh, if I'm doing a balancing pose, but I have to use the chair, use a wall for balance, am I not using my core? Am I not, really building strength in the places that I need to build strength? And my answer is no, that's crazy, right? That is absolutely not true. Okay, when you're using a chair, you're just taking the fear out of it, right? You're taking the worry out of it. So instead of saying, oh my God, I could fall any minute, you're saying, cool, I don't have to worry about falling because I have support and now I can actually access my core more. Okay, so here's what I mean. Let's say you have this chair for Warrior 3. Now I'm gonna pull up my shirt so you can see a little more. I also have this lovely cord for my mic, but I wanna pull up my shirt like, 80s music video style. I'm gonna tie it in like a little knot. I used to dance like this to walk like an Egyptian when I was at summer camp, right? Had my like knotted shirt. Actually, it wasn't even like this. I like pulled it through like a loop. Anyway, let's get to the yoga. Okay, so if I'm here and I'm using my hands on the chair for Warrior 3, so my leg goes back, Warrior 3. Okay, I can use the chair to actually press down and lift up. So instead of like hanging, right, see how my leg is going really high and my belly and my ribs are going down, I can push down using my forearms against the chair to help access my core muscles, to turn my left leg in more and then lift up again. Okay, so this chair is actually helping me access my core muscles even better, right? Think of it this way. If I'm not using the chair, get that chair out of the way. If I'm not using the chair, the tendency in Warrior 3 is to sag down, right? So you're in Warrior 3, you're like your leg is low or your leg is high. And I'm trying to like find that lift, okay? Now, if your balance is pretty good, you can find that lift with no problem. But if your balance is more challenged, finding that lift is really tricky because you might fall over. So using the chair just gives you a tool to create that lift and that access with your core muscles. Okay, so it's not a crutch, it's a tool to give you access to your strength. Okay, now another way that you might use the chair, you don't need to see my abs anymore. The other way that you might use the chair in balancing would be like tree pose as an example. Okay, so if you're trying to lift your leg into tree, but you can't get it like higher than your ankle because every time you do, you fall over, well, you use the chair to lean into. Right, then you use the chair to take your thigh and your butt back, and maybe you can grab your foot now. Maybe get it higher up. And then once you're there, you can squeeze and sort of ease off of the chair. Right, it's just there for help. Chair's not doing the work for you here. You are doing the work here. Okay, alternatively, you could use a wall for that. So if I lean into a wall and I want to stand my left leg, and it doesn't even matter how high up I get my foot, right? So if I take my thigh back and my butt back and I lean into the wall, I might be able to get my foot higher using my hand. But then it's like, oh, I've got to use the wall to pull back into my back body. And I might have to lean into it again, pull back into my back body. Whoop, there's my balance. Okay? So until I can find it. Okay, so using the wall as a prop there, again, just gives me reference to find my strength so I can access it and not be so worried about whether or not I'm going to fall over. okay? Now the wall is really great, or a chair is really great for understanding how to do poses too. So let's say you can't really spend a lot of time on your hands, but you want to get better at downward facing dog. Okay, and one of the things that helps getting better at downward facing dog is learning how to get into your hips and your low back. Now you can use a wall for that or a chair. I'm going to show you both. If you're at a wall, okay, use this wall, and you back yourself up, this is the same shape as downward facing dog. Now if I bend my knees, right, and I'm on my fingertips so I don't have to put as much weight on my hands there either, I can really move my hips back and find that same lift through my armpits and link through my spine that I would in downward facing dog. Okay, and that allows me to find the shape of the pose and to find the action of the pose without putting stress on my hands, my wrists, or my shoulders if I have an injury, right? Or if I'm newer to it, right? Like, remember when you were brand new to yoga, maybe some of you watching are brand new to yoga and you're like, down dog, I can't hold that pose for more than 2 seconds. Part of that is just building up the strength. But before you build up the strength to get into that down dog, you have to learn the mechanics of it. Okay, so using a wall or a chair in this case, and I'll show the chair, it's the same idea. If I press my hands into the chair, okay, I push down, lift my armpits up, right? So that's an important action in down dog. Armpits up, rib cage up, knees bend. I can really work on pushing my hips back almost to the point that I'm like taking the chair with me, right? That's how much power I want to have in my legs. Now I don't want to fall over and actually take the chair with me, but you get the idea, right? Like using the chair, using the wall gives me an awareness of the pose without putting unnecessary pressure on parts of my body that might not be able to withstand that, okay? Now let's keep talking about the chair. This is the last one I'm going to show you. So let's say you're working with a knee injury or hip instability, right? You've had hip surgery or knee surgery, or, you're just newer to movement, or you're postpartum and, your body just doesn't hold itself up quite as well because you're still recovering and healing. Let's say you want to do a standing pose, okay? Now, if you want to do a standing pose, take your legs wide, but I have this chair here. Okay, now I'm going to turn it so you have a better view, but I'm going to lean into the chair, turn my left foot out, bend my right knee so I can get my hips down, but my weight is still a little bit on the chair. And it allows me to be here with more stability, right? So that I can feel it, but also know that I'm not doing all of the work with my hips, that I can lean into it if I want, that I could even wiggle forward and say, hey, warrior two, hey, right? Like I could take the shape and actually sit on the chair. So I'm going to turn this to the side so you have a better vantage point, but it's the same idea. So just to show, I'm going to lean into the chair, my legs go wide, I turn my left foot out, same leg because it's the better view, hips go down, right? And this just allows me to get a little deeper into the pose with support. Okay, so using the chair isn't a crutch, right? It's something that gives me support as I'm healing, as I'm recovering, so that when I'm ready, I could maybe take my hands to my legs for a moment. I could take my arms out to the sides, but the chair is right there for me when I need it. Okay? So I'm going to set this aside. Actually, I'm going to sit in it. I'm going to hang out in it because, chairs are great. So, okay, so hopefully that sort of clears up the idea that props are crutches, right? Or that props are cheating, or that props are a way to bypass the actual work of your body. When in fact, props are there to help you get more reference, get more support, get more access, and also help you progress slowly in the way that your body needs it the most, so that you are doing things safely and responsibly, so that you learn while you're doing it without getting injured if you are healing, whether you are recovering, whatever you're going through, or whether you're just learning, whether you're brand new and you want to take things slow. These props are there to help you do that. Okay, so they're not there to hold you back. They're not there to make you feel like you're not good enough. They're not, some kind of, way to judge your ability or lack of ability. They're actually there to give you even more access. And that's why props are so awesome. So hopefully this has given you more insight to how to use props. It's given you some really smart tools to use with some of those basics in yoga. And also, hopefully it's given you more confidence to try out things that you haven't tried before, because either you didn't want to use props because you thought that it was like, cheating, or because you didn't know how. hopefully this has given you some insight into how to use those props so that you feel more prepared. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If there are poses that I didn't touch on in this video that you want to know how to use props in, please let me know. Just drop a comment and I will make that video for you. But for now, thanks for hanging out with me on the mat. As always, it is a privilege to share this with you. Don't forget to subscribe in that bottom right-hand corner so you get content like this every single week, totally for free. All right, so I'll see you next time. Bye.